Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the match preview. Wolverhampton Wanderers at home, Goodison Park, Sunday. We're recording this before Wolves play in the Europa League second leg against Torino. Let's just point that out. But that could have a factor on the game, couldn't it, really? Because Thursday nights, Sunday afternoons, they're not always the best preparation for a Premier League, especially when it'll be a tough game, or they'll have to put everything into it. Some teams don't necessarily respond straight away, and Wolves have drawn all 3 Premier League games so far, and have looked just a little bit off it from last season. They've obviously started the season a little bit earlier. They've done very, very well in the Europa League, by the way. They've sailed through.
Did they win the first leg away?
They won 3-2, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what, let's just pretend they've won. But regardless of that, I imagine, it's always difficult, isn't it? Especially when you started the season earlier than everyone else. I know that people will say, well, you should be fit and all the rest of it, but I don't know. You might find it difficult.
These multi-millionaires seem to be sensitive to routine, don't they? And it's changed. I mean, most who go through that route have struggled, haven't they, with their Premier League form at this phase, because then if they get through, they don't play for a while, do they? So they're okay.
Yeah. I think once you get into the
group stages,
once your teams get in the group stage and they understand then that it's not a knockout phase, and they can play players in some games and maybe play players in other games, and they can work the fixtures. I think one of the factors that catch teams up at this point is from one week to the next. I think the last round they had to play, they found out who they were playing and they had a week's notice of having to go, deep into the back half of Europe essentially. So those things can be difficult, the preparations. And once you're in the group stage, you settle down and you beat your games then, don't you?
I'd rather have got them after the away leg, but I mean, I think we just have to start with intensity and put them under the cosh.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? I mean, they started the season, I think they drew away at Leicester. Very unfortunate. They got hit with one of the first VAR decisions.
That's right,
the handball.
Santo wasn't very happy.
Yeah, the handball, which, whether you think it's a good rule or not, that is the rule now. I don't mind that rule. The only thing I don't like about it is if it goes the other way, it's not a penalty straight away. So it goes against the attackers and not the defenders.
Well, that's because of the way it's drafted, isn't it?
Yeah, like most of these new rules.
Basically, for a defender, you can have accidental handball.
Yeah.
For an attacker, if a goal ensues, you can't.
And then obviously last week they played Burnley and drew 1-1. They scored with a 90+7 penalty, which what that does suggest is that even though they played 3 days before,
still playing at the end.
They were still going to the end, and so it's not going to be an easy game. We didn't beat them last season.
Well, it's February at home, you mean? 3-1.
Well, we didn't beat them away either, did we?
2-2, yeah.
2-2, 2-1 at home. Was it 2-1?
3-1.
3-1,
yeah.
It was a
Gomez scored, yeah.
Yeah, but it was a horrible game, wasn't it? They really did.
Showed they were a lot better.
Showed the class that day.
A lot better than
I think
us at the time.
what Wolves are, though, is they're a team that have had. They had a year basically settling together in the Championship against lesser opposition, and they brought that form into the Premier League last season.
This is the season they have to.
Well, this is the season. This will be the season that will show how good they are, because they've got to balance the Premier League, the Europa League, and the squad will get stretched more, and whether those new players they've brought in can adapt to it as well. But the basic squad is a very, very good team.
And where we are, looking at our season going forward, if we're thinking whoever the 5 and 6 are going to be out of the so-called top 6, then we would assume, wouldn't we, that ourselves, Leicester and Wolves are in that mix. Yeah. So putting one on them at the weekend and making their start 3 draws and a defeat actually is quite important, even at this early stage of the season.
If we were to win Sunday, we would have started the season better than we started it last season. Last season we started it with a win, 2 draws and a defeat, so we can have 2 wins, a draw and a defeat, and we're through in the League Cup. We'd have started the season better without necessarily playing any better. And I think Sunday is a game where I still think we're going to have to grind it out. If we win it, it's going to be a lot like the Watford game. We're going to have to grind it out. Maybe they'll have a little bit more of the continuity, but I think it's a game that we've just got to grind out, because I always think the season doesn't properly get going till after this international break.
I agree. Yeah.
It used to be because of the transfer window.
Now it's this. Yeah.
Now it's a lot of the teams. None of the teams seem to. Pre-season
This is pre-season.
Exactly. This still feels like pre-season,
which is why it's all about results.
Yeah, it is, and we've seen that in the past when you've got quality players, like when we had Lukaku and we won like 3 of the first 4 games, and then we didn't win a game for like 1. We won 1 in 10 when everything settled down. This for me is a game we've just got to get through. Playing at home, familiar system. Maybe that's why Dominic Calvert-Lewin might start again. I know people are going to be.
Surely he will.
I don't. It's whether the manager. There's a temptation there, isn't there? Temptation to play the big shiny thing. Dom hasn't scored yet. He hasn't played brilliantly either, which is more of the factor on whether he starts.
But he'll work the opposition's defence.
Yeah,
more than certainly more than Keane would I think at this stage. And he's not going to start Iwobi instead of DCL, is he? Or is he?
No, I think Iwobi will start.
Yeah, I think he'll start as well, but the one at risk there has got to be Bernard, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Bernard, yeah.
So I think DCL will start, Iwobi will start, Richie will start. He hasn't scored in the league. Last night will have done him the world of good.
Yeah.
And we need to try and bring forward some confidence in that we can win the game and play with some passion, with some pace. I think we need to move the ball a lot quicker than we have been. And I think they're a technically competent team as well. So our defence is going to have to be, on the ball too. I think that's where
they are good at. They move the ball really well, and one of the things they do really well is they break really quickly. But it's not they have got pace, and in Traore they've got loads of pace, whether he starts or coming off the bench. But it's how fast they move the ball. They have a tactic that they had, and they did it at Goodison with Jota. Is they have players in midfield who are so good on the ball. They can pick people out with good movement quickly, and it catches the opposition. It's counter-attack football, but it's not necessarily. It's more with accurate passing rather than with pace.
Yeah.
And I think that can be the thing that has to worry us, because we're at home. We do like to assert pressure on people. You don't necessarily play your own game, counter-attacking football. And that's where they could cause us some damage. Well, not having that natural centre-back either, like Zuma, who can sweep up at the back. We've got to be careful of that.
Well, I think that careful bit, and I know we were appalling last week against Villa, but we should have sat off Villa as well. I mean, we should be solid, but due to them, you just said they will do to us, which is when we do move through the passages or through the phases, whatever the techie phrase is, we do it quickly and insightfully, which means passes of the ball, which means Gomez has got to be on it. Presumably Delph will start, and he's a damn good passer.
Yeah.
And we want Iwobi and Richarlison moving into space and receiving the ball early and in front of them. Yeah.
I think we've got to be more direct.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
More direct with the ball. So that means going through the centre of the park and stop going wide all the time, because by the time...
And getting round Dominic quickly.
Yeah, by the time we get the ball, and we've seen this last Friday, is we get the ball on the edge of the box.
They've reset.
And we start working it, and they've reset. And, all right, Villa, every time we put a ball, they had 2 centre-backs, 6'4" and 6'5", bread and butter to them. These have got Conor Codian, who is, again, he's that kind of centre-back who just wants to header it all day long, and will do that all day long. We've got to be cleverer, and we've got to be a bit more switched on, and I think that's where someone like Iwobi is a bit more direct, and hopefully with a bit more in Richarlison's legs, and whether Moise Kean comes off the bench or just that competition between him and Dom. I think that's a big thing now, and they've got to have that bit. And you know what, as well, just whisper it quietly, but Cenk Tosun's there as well, and I'm sure he keeps on saying the right things. I want to stay at the club. I want to fight for this club. Who's to say he's not going, hang on, forget about these two. I want a bit of this as well, especially if the formation changes a little bit and we start playing maybe a little bit more 4-4-2 at times, which the manager has shown that he might be willing to play now. Yeah. That's where Cenk Tosun comes into it. So I'm not writing Cenk Tosun off if we have players. Cenk Tosun is the kind of player that if you isolate him, he's no good. But if we start playing with players who are going to be more direct, then actually there's an opportunity for Cenk Tosun, obviously coming off the bench from the start. But then saying, well, I want to be part
But
of
that
this.
comes back to if it becomes a 3 when we've got the ball up front, they need to be close together,
Yeah.
probably quite narrow, and the 10 or whoever it is, the 8, whatever, needs to be able to pick them out.
Yeah.
And you know, because the advantage of, was it Cody? Yeah. He's Scouser, isn't he?
Yeah.
Big strapping lad.
One of them.
Yeah. Is inevitably, if you turn him, he's going to be less comfortable.
Yeah.
And so we need to be on top of them.
Well, that goes back again.
But we need to reset quickly
It's
as
about
well.
being braver as well. It's
course
about
it's brave,
saying, we're prepared to sit in your half and try and make probing passes, not safe passes, probing passes that may see us lead us to lose the ball at times. But if they get through, then we're in fantastic
And
opportunities.
our recovery needs to be quick then.
Well, that comes down to having confidence in the players around you, and that's the only worry, is because we don't have a Garner, and obviously Gabaman's going to be missing till back end of November now.
Sure.
We haven't got a player like that in midfield that can be that player, because so much when you say the 3 narrow, then that means your fullbacks have got to be bombing
Absolutely.
on. Well, not bombing on. Their starting positions have to be the halfway line.
Yeah.
Which says to one of
Which
your...
is why Silva plays them anyway.
Yeah, that says to your midfielders, or one of your midfielders, you've got to be, the old James McCarthy, Gareth Barry, what they used to do. One went to right back, one went to left back.
Automatically without thinking.
And we
Delph will know to do that.
Yeah, but that's not not necessarily his natural role. But,
No, it's not.
But he will do that. Because he has played left back, and he'll know. Listen, he's been playing for the bravest team in England for well, some will say forever, because the Man City team are so brave, and they hit passes at each other so hard and so fast that the opposition don't know where they are. But they do allow. This is the thing I always say about the difference between Liverpool and Man City. Liverpool are a machine. They go over the top of you. They snowball you. They absolutely just hammer you down. Man City, it's all about finesse and bravery. It's being brave enough to hit that pass that no one else would be willing to do. We wouldn't be willing to do half of the passes. It would be just simple. They wrap it into people, but because they've got good players, then those... And then we've got to be... If you're going to be a good team, you've got to be prepared. How Tottenham have gone from losing a third of their games last season and got to the Champions League final and got back into the Champions League. They lost a third of their games. That's because they play so far on that edge. Now, are we good enough to play on that edge? I don't know. But when you look at the players we've got, you've got to start being brave enough. Now, I don't know whether last season that bravery came towards the end of the season, because it was, well, we hit 40 points. We can be brave now. But you've got to be brave from day one, I think, if you want to get into the top 6 or even think about getting in the top 4.
Well, it's an overload approach, isn't it? And it is playing win-lose. It's binary. And that's when if you look at the way City play, you say they're brave, but they're hugely disciplined as well.
Oh, yeah.
And that thing that Guardiola does, which is fundamentally in if you like, our goalie forwards, the 2/3 in front of our goalie, you need to be disciplined, you need to do your jobs, you need to close down, this, that and the other. Once you're in the last third, they're totally fluid.
Yeah.
Totally fluid. But that means they can end up with 4, 5, 6, God knows how many players in and around the box, which it does, frightens the opposition to death, but they're really at risk of the opposition then get the ball. And that's where you're going to do the recovery stuff. And I just think, to a degree, particularly right now, then we haven't got the players who can cope with that.
No.
So Sigurdsson's not mobile enough. Clearly Gomez isn't. If Schneiderlin's in there, then he won't go, because the last thing he wants to be is turned or be run at and so on. So he naturally is conservative, wants it all in front of him and stuff like that. And maybe that will drive the manager's selections. And not just for this weekend, but going forward. Who are we playing? How do they play? What kind of players do I want to put in here? And maybe we'll get a bit more surprises about the guys who don't make it to the 17 because...
Well, you've got to start looking. If you've got a player like Sigurdsson and you're working out his numbers and you're saying, well, he's not getting the ball, whether you think he's good or not,
he needs to be on the ball.
You've got to say to him, well, if we're not getting him on the ball and then he's not getting to the ball to the forward, then...
Why is he there?
He's going to have to sit down and someone else is going to have to come in.
Yeah.
And that's the same about Delph. Delph, I imagine, pass completion will be in the 92, 93, 94, 95. So you
Have
say,
you got any stats?
I haven't got stats for them, unfortunately. So that's where you start saying to a player like that, well, you will play because you keep the ball. You keep the ball for us. You know, Richarlison, most of the time when he gets the ball, when he's fit, ends up with something happening. And they're the kind of, you've got to start playing it by numbers then. And that's where football, that's why we do have stats. That's where football's going. You've got to start playing, and it's sad to a degree, but that's where football's going.
I think that bravery is something, particularly at home as well, and we can have the atmosphere bouncing and all that good stuff, is that the fans are cool with, you've been brave and you've lost the ball. What really, and it winds me up and no doubt everybody else, is the unforced errors.
Yeah.
The cheap ball we give away, the 5-yard pass that should be 100%, never mind your bloody 90-something, and it misses by a metre. And then they get nervous then, and all that sort of stuff. And technically, we've got technical players.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that at all. So sometimes you think, what goes on in the dressing room, or what goes on, once they get on the field from a leadership point of view? Because the other thing that you see in the better teams, which actually in some ways they get rattled, but you rarely see City rattled. They just press a reset button. This has worked for us for 5 years, so we just conceded a goal, even 2 goals. So what? Press reset and go
what
again.
Is, though, is, and they've got it as well. It's that idea. It's 100% belief.
Yes,
in
totally.
the way they play. 100%.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
Totally.
And anyone who comes in just gets on with it and that's the manager, and that can take years to get that right. That's a manager coming in and going, I play this way, and I will drill and drill and drill and drill. And if you don't get it, you don't play in my team. And it doesn't actually matter if you're better than this other kid. And that's why Dominic Calvert-Lewin plays.
Yeah.
He gets it and you don't. If you've never seen Take the Ball, Pass the Ball documentary of Barcelona, it's unbelievable. And there's a bit in it where they've got a centre-back, Barcelona, Russian centre-back, could open a can of beans with his left foot. And he had Zlatan up front. And this centre-back just keeps on pinging the ball to Zlatan. He took him off at half time. Even though Zlatan, I think, had scored. And he
that's
took
not
him
how
off
we play.
It's not that. That's not how we play, right? He said, that's predictable. We don't play that football.
Well, that's what I mean. We don't play that way because it's predictable.
Exactly. So we play this style. And Henri's in it, and Henri says, I had to make this dummy run. And 99 times...
He got told off as well, yeah.
Well, no, he said I had to make this dummy run. 99 times I could do this run. Or 100 times I could do this run. 99, I've never got the ball. But the point being is, every time I made that run, it meant that Xavi had 3 options. And if I make that run and someone follows me, then someone drops in and takes the ball. That's how the team works. And that's the principle Pep lives with. You've seen them. They have that where it doesn't matter who plays in the 3, they come in and they do a job. And that's the difference. It's all the players believing in what the manager does. It's what Pochettino did when he went to Spurs. First thing he did was said, who's prepared to run through brick walls for me and who isn't? And Andre Townsend put his hand up and said, I'm not. And Andre Townsend found himself, he probably didn't say that, but he ended up at Newcastle because he just wanted the players who didn't want anyone who wasn't prepared to be there. It's what Lukaku's done at Man United. Solskjaer said, who's prepared to run all day for me? And Lukaku's gone, I'm not prepared.
I don't do that. Yeah.
I'm not prepared to lose weight for you and all the rest of it. And Solskjaer's gone, okay. And maybe he's still making his mind about Pogba. But you can point fingers at the manager all day. If the manager's got a way of playing and the players aren't prepared, or are, well, I don't do it that way, I do it my way.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you talk about this and you see the stick DCL gets. And I think, you said it when we were talking before. 3 managers in a row.
Yeah.
Pick the guy. Yeah. And fans are thinking, he's not good enough. He's this, he's that, he's the other. But because he's doing what the manager wants. Yeah. And that means if the outcomes are not what the manager wants, it must be somebody else isn't doing what the manager wants. Now, you can always have an upgrade. Yeah. And say, well, we'll have a different player who does what the manager wants. But that then becomes, when we're talking about, the fans will love Keane, won't they, because of the type of, he's got a bit of spark about and so on. But he's not necessarily going to play if he's not doing what the manager wants, So it's a conundrum of they've all got to do it. It's a team game.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, that's what Man City are. The manager, as you say, he drills them to death on that first 2/3. And part of it is freedom in the last third. But as soon as the turnover happens, you have to go back to the routine again.
Yeah.
And that means closing, which is where Aguero had to learn the lesson, didn't he? You know, I don't care who you are, mate, whether you're going to be the record goal scorer. If you don't play the way I want you to play, you don't play. Yeah. And you know, when they did that thing on Sky, where it, almost like the masterclass from Pep, and I might have said this on your show before, but whoever the host guy was says, well, you know, these multi-million-pounds players, world class, won this, won that, won the other, and you've got this work ethic into them. You know, how do you get them to do it? And he just says, they don't do it, they don't play.
No, that's it.
You know, and that's it. You know, full stop. Whether we think, you know, player A is better than player B. If B does what the manager says and A doesn't, B plays. That's human nature, isn't
it? But that's clearly why I think Marco Silva likes Richarlison as well, is because he understands that Richarlison's got a work ethic.
Yeah, he has.
And will run through brick walls. And even when he's not playing well, okay, he might put the sulky face on, whatever, but he'll still run round and is prepared to be fouled and is prepared to put himself in difficult situations. And that's what other players have got to do. And that's why he likes Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He probably says to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, do this job for me all game. And another player might go, I'm not prepared to do that. What, run round for 90 minutes and there's zero chance of actually scoring a goal? Yeah, that's your job.
But you talk about that trust thing, trust in the formation, trust in the process, and then trust that the outcomes will come.
Yeah.
And it is, I guess, in some respects interesting. If the outcomes don't come, I guess the coaches who are coaching that say, that's because you and you and you didn't do what we should do. And so it's not just individuals have to trust and believe. All of them do.
Yeah.
You know, and your audience can decide which one of the starting 11 from Villa, or how many of them, didn't believe. Yeah. And it shows in the performance.
But then that comes down to the manager.
Or believe but can't do it for some reason.
That might come down to when the manager picks the team, isn't it? If he picks I'm not saying he's going to pick a completely different team, but if he picks, there's a couple of players there on Sunday and you go, oof, I didn't see that. Well, then it's because they weren't doing their job last week and that let the rest of the side down.
I mean, it is better or easier if you're Pep and you've got 25 players who would all get in a Premier League team and you can only pick 17 of them. Then, you know, the marginal impact of saying, Aguero, you ain't playing, mate, is less than if we just decide, well, Pickford, you haven't been doing as you're told, so we're putting the young lad in, you know. So that's where all the psychology comes in.
Yeah.
So what do you think's going to happen now?
I'm going to say, it's going to be a difficult game. Hopefully Everton get the 3 points.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, listen, it's not a foregone conclusion. Wolves are a very good side, but we'll have to wait. They are a very good, and they've got a bit of that in them, though. They are a well-drilled, well-coached team that have almost got that opposite thing, whereas other clubs have got big squads. They've got a small squad, and he said to them, some of them have come through Wolves, through the divisions, and some of them have come from outside. But what he's done is he's got that idea of we play a certain way. But as I said at the top of the show, the difference with Wolves is, and this is where they've come from, is they had practically a year. They had a Premier League team in the Championship, and they went through a whole season of being able to just do what they want, and that's why they're so good.
Isn't it interesting though? And this is where the fun starts, I guess. If you get that drilled, you can get to the point where you're drilled so you can't change.
Yeah.
So if you get
second nature.
Yeah. So you get found out, whatever that means. Yeah. And you know, Wolves will have a second season syndrome because all these coaches have watched them and this, that, and the other. But then again, they could have seen them in the Championship, couldn't they? But they have the comfort of saying, but it's a lesser league and so on. That they'll continue to do the same thing, even if.
Well, they will, because they've got a style.
So disrupt it. You know. I don't. Maybe you do, but we don't see them enough, as we see our own team, to know how do they perform when they're behind. You know, they're not a team you want to concede first to, are they?
No.
You know, because the counter-attacking style and the fast passing that they've got and stuff.
I watched them versus Man United the other night, and Man United were very, very comfortable at half-time, 1-0 up. And what I thought about Wolves was, game finished 1-1, but they're a team that can score out of nothing. They've got players in the centre of the park
that's where their strength is.
Who are fantastic, who can score from nothing. They're not one of these teams who ever down tools. And I think the other thing they've got as well is
You're scoring like 5, 6, 7 minutes into added time. You're going to the end, aren't
But they've
you?
also got this thing because they've got a pipeline of being able to buy good players because of the agent who basically, is in the hierarchy. They know they're always going to bring in good players, and I think that keeps people on their toes. They have got very, very good players. I think not saying what we've got to hope for, because we can beat them if everything's level. But I'm hoping that if we can take the lead on Sunday and keep going at them, that some of them might just go, you know what, I feel a little bit tired after those games. It's an international weekend. Sometimes you see sometimes you see it with teams, sometimes you don't. Classic case was last season when we played Chelsea. They just basically packed in when we went 2-0.
And that isn't that the point? And that's part, you say, it's about how you brief, whatever the phrase is, yeah. The pep talk that says, let's get at these guys, let's do this, that and the other. Let's see if we can remind them they played a few days ago. Yeah. Let's put some intensity into it. Let's have a few tackles. Find out who doesn't quite like it when you blatantly cut him in half. Yeah. If you get on the ball, let's find out how much moral fibre they've got, where the psychology's at, all those sorts of things. Because I think teams, they're a bit like City to a lesser extent, they're allowed to play, aren't they? Yeah. Don't let them play.
That's it. If you can get on top of a team and you can get a goal, and then you're pushing for a second, and you get that second, then you. I'm not saying that at that one. That relies a lot on us, but you're saying to them, "What have you got in the tank? What have you got in the tank on Thursday night?" A lot of players will just go.
I think our captain needs to understand we need to play into the Gladys Street in the first half, not in the second half. Yeah.
What he's trying to say about the park end.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's a case of just trying to wear them down and stay on top of them, and we don't do that enough. We let teams off the hook too many times, and we've seen that at Lincoln when we were 2-1 up. Keep going, keep, for a better phrase, keep your foot on the throat and keep going at them. If there's an opportunity, because teams will always have spells in games where it'll be the flip side.
They'll have the ball for a bit, yeah.
You've got to push teams, and that's where the bravery comes in, and saying, are we brave enough go 1-0 up? Are we brave enough to go at them, to keep at them? All right, being on the counter-attack's fine. But are we brave enough to say, we're going to keep going at you, we've got good players? And that's what we've got to start seeing, and hopefully we see that Sunday. So, and get the 3 points. And if we get the 3 points, it's not the worst start in the world to the season. If we've won a couple of games, drawn one and lost one, and we're through in the League Cup, it's not the worst.
And it's keeping that Goodison thing going.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
2 home games, 2 wins.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Definitely.
Because, we're in that bit of, we've been the ones with 2 away, haven't we?
Yeah,
so
definitely. There you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Went a bit out there then, didn't it? A bit of a tactical discussion without any images as well to back it all up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your fancies this weekend against Wolves. Who would you start? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you want more great videos, join us on Patreon. Big thanks to John for joining me as well. See you later.